There we go. Okay. We're coming back up in a couple of seconds.
Alrighty, hey, we're back here at Turn5.Live. I apologize. Giant storm above Donovan's mother's house, and down here in the basement, we're getting the feed from it. Just terrible.
I think my neighbors are probably leeching free porn or whatever.
Something. Well, you know, there is no better porn than free porn. Why would you pay for it? Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen.
Net neutrality.
Yeah, there you go.
Big treat for us tonight on Turn5.Live. We've got what I consider the dean of all Northwest promoters right there at the top of the hip with, Sidewalk Slim and all of them. As far as open wheel modifieds and sprint cars go, we've got a special guest tonight previewing next weekend's events here at Meridian Speedway. We've got the legendary Curt Kern is on Turn5.Live. That's pretty cool. Brent, what do you think?
I don't know. Are you there, Curt? I'm excited.
I'm trying to hold my excitement down.
Hey, I just got to tell everybody, I talked to Curt off the air here for a second. Curt is actually partaking in frosty beverages at his cabin, which he's worked very hard in his whole life to get. He's looking over probably the Puget Sound, pine trees, stuff like that, while we're living in sagebrush.
Yes.
It's good to be the Curt.
It's not even that good. I'm on the ninth fairway of a little tiny golf course up at Lake Cushman. So.
Nothing wrong with that. Hey, Curt, you and I are longtime friends. You were one of my mentors when I first started promoting. I got to tell you something kind of crazy. I've actually been a promoter now longer than I was a racer. I figured that out on the way over here today. I was trying to figure out something to talk to Kern about. And I first met Kern about 2002 when we were starting to do our Pro 4 stuff, and I met him at Reno at the promoters' workshops. And him and Bill Birdsell really kind of took me under the wing, and I knew Dan and I knew Spanky and stuff. So, Curt, how are things?
Good, really good.
Yeah, living up there. I got to tell you guys, this is kind of neat. We have an assistant official from the Sky Valley Racing Association, 1965, on the phone with us.
1965. That's not long ago.
I remember those.
No, you don't.
Movies.
You were scrotoplasm. You were scrotoplasm in 1965. You weren't even thinking about it. I was still scrotoplasm. I was born in '68. So, Curt, tell us. I got to know, what was there before there was dirt?
I don't think any of the three of you were even born in 1965. Were you?
No.
Nope.
Give me 10 more years and I was there.
No.
Jiminy Christmas.
Let's go back in time a little bit and let's talk about the Sky Valley racetrack there in Monroe, Washington in 1965. Tell me about you and your mom and your dad and all the friends that you guys had. Your dad helped, of course, build the racetrack there.
That's very true. Sky Valley, the association itself and the racetrack actually opened in 1957, so I was 5 years old at the time.
Wow.
And my dad was one of the guys that originally helped build the little quarter-mile dirt track up there in Monroe. And so that's, kind of where I got started in my love-hate relationship of racing was back then. And my cousin was a couple of years, 2-3 years older than I was, and he ended up being the flagman up there. And before that, he was an assistant. And when he couldn't make it, probably because he got grounded by my aunt or something, I don't know for sure. But I got to be the assistant up there. So, yeah, my first time actually standing on a racetrack as an assistant flagman was in 1965.
Wow.
18 years old.
And that led you to a cinder block at at Spanaway Speedway.
Well, I actually, in 1982, that's funny. In 1982, I flagged the season for WRA, which was the predecessor of when USAC came up into Washington and took over the sanctioning in 85 and 86. But yeah, anyway, I flagged the season in 1982. So every Saturday and every other weekend, their schedule was every other weekend at Spanaway. And I would drive from Monroe to Spanaway, which is just outside of Tacoma. And flag at Spanaway Speedway for when Dick Boness had the track.
Wow, Dick Boness. Well, that's a long time ago. Holy cow, these are legends of the Northwest scene as far as racetrack promoters go. I was listening to you talk there, and, we have a lot in common because we've both been in the car industry for a long time. And getting those Saturdays off to be able to go do our love of short track racing has been tough. I remember many times that it was 5 o'clock at night and I was finishing a car deal, and I didn't get to practice that night. I didn't get, and I brought my stuff out and I made the heat race or whatever. And there was probably times I should have finished better in points or won more main events or something like that, but I never got to practice. So I'm certain that was probably an issue with you in your career as well.
Well, what was great about what I was doing at the time when I first started the NSRA in 1987, I was working in F&I at Lee Johnson Chevrolet. And
That's finance
I
and
worked
insurance for you laymen.
F&I, yeah, sorry. Car talk, just car talk.
We got you.
Anyway, I was in charge of putting a schedule together, and I worked every other weekend. So I managed, and I don't know how the heck I could do it. I don't think I could ever do it again, but I managed to book our races on every weekend that I had off.
Wow.
So
amazing.
it kind of worked out that way. It wasn't great for the relationship at home, but you know.
Well, those are overrated anyway, aren't they?
Yeah.
And my wife is listening, by the way. I've been married 30 years this year, so hopefully
Well,
I'm married a saint.
I made sure mine wasn't. So.
See, you're teaching me something new every day. See?
We've all learned something
Yes. You know, in 1987, when he founded the NSRA, it was kind of more by need, but we also had that organization at the time was not sprint cars that we currently know it. They were super modifieds.
Right.
Yeah. Tell us about the evolution of the NSRA until you turned it over to the board.
We actually started NSRA as it was actually Northwest Super Modified Racing Association. Ed Williams and I actually put it together one Saturday afternoon after USAC yanked their sanction in '86 unexpectedly. Ed Williams and I got together and sat in his kitchen and had a WRA rule book, a USAC rule book, a WOW rule book, you know, all the open wheel rule books that we could get.
Right.
And we sat at his table and put together a rule book for NSRA, and that's kind of how it started.
Where was your first show at?
If I had to guess,
Evidently, you're going to have to guess at this point.
because it was 30-some years, it was like 31 years ago, Todd.
That's a lot of Jack Daniels ago, my
and
friend.
I'm almost 66, so just saying.
Did they have internal combustion back then?
Internal combustion. You guys were pedal power, Flintstone.
The horse and buggy modified?
Yeah, we had, well, yeah, the lights came on by generator, I think,
There you go.
at the track. But I think it was probably Spanaway.
Spanaway,
Dick
yeah.
Boness was pretty kind to us back then, and
Sure.
and
You know, that's one of those tracks that's gone by the wayside. And I remember as when I lived in Seattle and the subdivisions were approaching, and of course, behind the pits there, we started getting houses. And I was thinking, they're not going to be able to, holy cow. And then, of course, the track went away. And we're losing a lot of those tracks. And one of the reasons that we have Turn5.Live is because of things such as the failure, you know, or the urban sprawl that ate Spanaway Speedway and ate Tri-Cities and, you know, was trying to eat other tracks. So that's kind of why we do this radio show. So, all right, in the NSRA, probably 10 or 15 different tracks you guys have been to? Did you guys do Pikes Peak? Was that yours?
you know, I think over the years, I was in Canada, Washington, Oregon, Idaho.
Wow.
All over Canada, too.
Yeah, where else? Colorado,
Sure,
Utah.
sure.
God,
All over
what else?
California,
You know,
too.
at one time I sat down and I had figured out all
Montana?
the different tracks that we had gone to.
Did you ever
and
get
it
to
was-
Great Falls?
It was
or-
amazing.
Not Great Falls, but did you ever get to Kalispell or any of those tracks in Montana?
No, nope. You know what? I really didn't go to any tracks in Montana until NSRA turned into a sprint car club, and I went back to be
Flagging them, open them.
president after it was a sprint car club. So
Wow, all over the place. I tell you, this guy is the dean of, as far as that's going, is open wheel cars in the northwest part of the United States. You know, and you and I both share a love. Of course, my background, of course, being super modifieds before it was mini stocks or like Pro 4s or any of that stuff. Modifieds today. My background was always super modifieds due to my family. And the neat thing about that, I think, is that we share a bond because of that. Looking at what's coming up on the 26th at Meridian Speedway is really cool. And thank you for doing that. I got to say that for all the race fans, especially Meridian, Idaho, because the fans are so passionate about super modifieds. Other than maybe Madera and Sandusky, Ohio, and Oswego, New York, those are the top four. Meridian, Madera, Oswego, and Sandusky probably are the biggest places for super modified racing in the world. And to have it here at our home track is going to be great. I know that everyone is looking forward to seeing their favorite friends from years gone by on Friday and Saturday night next week. What brought that up?
you know, it's one of those things that I started talking to Dave Biswell about doing a reunion many, many years ago. I mean, Dave said it was probably 10, 15 years ago, and it very well may. could have been, Todd. I'm not 100% sure, but
Right.
and I kind of told this story on the Facebook page, but I mean, we talked about it and it was exciting. We wanted to do it. And then I started thinking, okay, well, that'd be cool, but where do you have it? I mean, seriously, do we have it in Washington? Do we have it in California? Do we have it in Victoria, BC?
Right.
Where do we have this thing? Because we always had racers coming from so many different parts of
Right.
the country.
Right.
And was it fair for me to say, what, we're just going to have it in Washington because that's where I live and I'm going to be stingy about that. And I
Sure.
thought, that's not right. That's not fair. And so, it was kind of what do they call that? Conundrum?
Corundum?
And-
Conundrum.
I don't know. Brent's the
thank you,
smart one.
thank you.
Brent's listening. He's a smart one. Is it Corundum, Brent?
A group effort.
Anyway, so it was just one of those things that we talked about, and and then I just kind of put it on the back burner, and we talked about it again, and it's like, yeah, okay, well, how do you get the ball rolling? Where do we go? And then last June, I was at the Diamond Cup because
Yeah.
I knew that they were going to run supers, and I
Yeah.
hadn't been to
It's
Idaho.
the last time
and I've
I've
got a
seen
lot
you
of
in
friends in
person.
Idaho.
Was it? Yeah, it's the last time I seen you and Bill, and both in person.
Yeah.
Was there? Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm standing in the pit area talking to Jim Burgess and Rick Beanstra, and we're talking about the reunion again.
Jim
And
Burgess. Never heard of her.
Yeah,
Never heard of
Jim.
her.
The junkyard dog.
Hopefully he's listening. Love me some Jim.
Yeah. Anyway, Jim says, well, why don't we have it here next year when Adam does the supers again? And I thought, well, okay, well, if he's going to do the supers, that's a good idea, I guess. And Adam just happened to be walking by, and we hollered at him, and he came over, and we talked about it a little bit. And he said, hey, whatever you want to do, let me know what I need to do.
Yeah,
and
because
just kinda went
Adam's
from there.
Adam's
And
like
then-
us, He's grown up with the supers, and that's been our thing. And there's so many folks in his family, and his grandfather, Bill Crow, that was a
Yep.
super modified. Holy cow, he was one of the founders of Camera.
Yeah.
Way back. So yeah.
So anyway, it just kind of went from there. And then, of course, it wasn't too many months, like 2 or 3 months after I was in Meridian, and I had a great conversation with Harold and Cher Evans. Hadn't seen him for years, and I hear that Harold passed away. And I was like, "Holy crap!"
Yeah, one of the good guys.
Yep.
Yeah, so it just kind of put a little bit of sense of urgency into what we were thinking about. And I thought, you know what? Before we got nobody to have a party with, we need to do this.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you're 66. I just got to tell you. I'm just kidding you. I'm just
Thanks for the
kidding you.
reminder.
You can kick my ass later. I know you're getting some help from Mike, and you're helping. There's a lot of folks that are helping you out. Who, of the folks that are been our heroes and car owners and pit crew people and PR people and so forth that are out there, who do you think's making the trek to Meridian for the reunion as far as people?
And I talked to you a little bit about this earlier too, Todd. But I mean, you know what? A huge fan favorite, Troy Regier, is going to be there. Troy's, he's just excited as hell about this thing. I mean, he just can't wait. Billy Birdsell.
You got to tell the Birdsell story. I know we talked about it earlier today. Bill Birdsell's one of the classiest, coolest people I know. And Bill Birdsell, didn't he start helping you just because he showed up at the racetrack and wanted to take some pictures or something?
That's
like
kind of, he just had to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
The wrong place, right?
He used to sit in the stands behind my parents, and then one time he came down and asked me if he could come into the pits and take pictures, and I got to know him after that a little bit, and one day, and I think it was, I can't remember. I think it was in Ephrata, I think, or
Sure.
no, maybe it was Victoria. Anyway, Jerry Vantrite at the time, who had been a racer, was my pit steward. And of course, like most racers, they show up at the racetrack with their helmet and their fire suit just in case, and you just happen to have somebody offer them a ride in the car, and so there went my pit guy, and I'm on the flag stand and trying to run the whole show from the flag
I bring
stand.
like 8 people. I could imagine just trying to do it myself. That would be
Yeah,
insane.
it just, so it was, a bit tough, and I just found Bill and I said, how'd you like to help me out today? And he said, well, okay, what do you want me to do? And so I gave him a list of stuff that he had to do, and that was kind of the beginning of my great relationship with Bill. He's just
Sure.
been involved since that day.
Everybody's buddy, and very highly respected, just like yourself around the Northwest. So, what?
Yeah.
So,
So, it's been great. Anyway, Billy will be there. The first flagman I ever hired because I just had too many other things going on. I couldn't do it anymore. Was Rabbit, Donnie Gist.
Rabbit.
Yep.
And he'll be there. He's actually showing up with a legend car, and I think is going to actually compete in the legend class that day.
That's Lloyd?
Yeah.
What's Lloyd Bigler? Is his real name. I never knew it until he actually appeared in the standings of the legend cars.
Yeah, Donnie Gist, Gist. Yep.
Oh, is that his name? Okay.
Yep.
All right, I've had it wrong.
Bobby Bajoni, Art Bajoni's son.
Wow.
Art and Bob, 1 year, traveled from Soledad, California to the Northwest and raced our schedule 1 year.
Wasn't
Art we're
Bajoni
100%ers for the year. That was, which was really, really cool.
Wasn't Art called the Carrot King? Wasn't that his
Yep.
nickname? Yeah, Art
Yep.
Bajoni Sr. And then Bobby,
Yep.
of course, ran for a few different teams in his own family. Did well.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow, who else?
Yep. The old promoters from Hermiston, Judy Lear. Judy's going to be there.
Wow.
There's a slim chance that Mark Sargent, from the Sargent family, Mark and Mike Sargent, and Marshall Sargent, there's a good chance that Mark might be there.
Wow.
Marty White from Canada.
Yeah, the camera champion a couple of years in a row. I think 84, 85 right there.
Yep. In fact,
the
Marty
Cami
ran with his vintage car last night at Roseburg, and from Roseburg, they're headed your way.
Wow, Marty White's one of the good dudes.
Yeah,
all around the Northwest, they hauled that Cami special on that beautiful hauler in that car, and I tell you, they were really good to the fans. I remember when I was a little boy, Marty White was always really classy to go speak to after the races.
Another guy that I'm looking forward to seeing too, and it's kind of a shame because we don't live that far from each other, but Don McLeod.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Don McLeod's going to be there. Donnie is actually married to Rebel Jackson's Junior's mom.
Oh, wow. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, they got married. Yeah. So Jerry, Don and Jerry are going to be there. Another one of my old officials, and again, I don't get to see some of these people anymore much at all. And Ron Patterson, Ron's going to be there. Ron is a guy that I kind of hired away from Hermiston, Oregon. Ron was a pit steward when we showed up to Hermiston the first time. And he was kind of a big guy, kind of an intimidating guy at the time. And I needed that guy in my backyard. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, they are super modified guys. They are a different breed.
Yeah. Well, you know, when you make the wrong decision, sometimes it's nice to have somebody that's going to stand next to you.
You've always made perfect decisions. Just ask Burgess. I just got a text on my phone that Flying Brian's going to be there too. Brian Schaefer's trying really hard to come.
You know, I knew that Brian was going to be there. Obviously my hope was that Brian would bring a car out of his stable, but I don't think it's just going to happen. But Brian, I've talked off and on with Brian, and I know that Brian's going to be there. And I haven't seen him forever in the day, so that'll be cool.
Sorry, we're just, I don't mean to interrupt you there, but for those guys who are watching, we are having some technical difficulties as well, still with our stream.
Hopefully this is getting through, because this is good stuff.
Yeah, and I hate to kind of cut in there, but yeah,
that's all right.
We're live-ish. At least this will be available in replay. But just as far as anybody who is watching streaming live, we do have a handful of watchers.
All the best plans on Mice and Men, Kurt. I mean, we've lined up this interview. All three of us were like, Curt Kern.
This is
right before the Super Modified reunion, and then we have a Thunder bumper right above us, and Donovan's got business cable and the best stuff you can get. It's still not coming through, so hopefully we're okay. The show's live still. Hopefully everybody's still there.
We got a handful of people watching. We got tens of people watching right now.
I just got told I hear and see you great, so evidently we're okay.
We're good to go.
Yeah, we're good to
good.
go.
All right, so
good.
And we have, just in case for those who are watching, we're on your Facebook page, and we're kind of bouncing through the different pictures on there, going through the cars. As we're talking.
Right now, the old the splashed water car of Burgess, the orange and blue car running down the back shooter Meridian's on there. Hey, Kurt, talk about super modified race cars. And looking back at these, they are my history. I mean, my brother-in-law ran a rear engine super modified, and we had, of course, the offsets. And then when the advent of the no independent front ends came about, a lot of those cars were mothballed. But looking back at these cars, and the novice person may not understand, these things are 1,000 horsepower. They're injected. They're all hand built. I mean, we've had some people, the Silsbys, the Hyders, the Sefcheks of the world that have tried to manufacture them in kind of a streamline, but these cars are so hand built. If you hurt one, it's really 3 or 4 months to get it back on the track. Where in a sprint car, you can order another chassis and have it here in a couple days.
Yeah.
So talk about that a little bit. Tell me did we cost ourselves out of these cars, or were they just so hard to fix? What's the real story why we don't have 40 of them running around in the Northwest?
That's a darn good question, Todd. And I've said this time and time and time again. I mean, Ed Williams and I talk about this a lot. We just feel totally blessed that we were involved with these things the way that we were at the time that we were. Let's face it, between Washington and California and a couple of the other Idaho,
Sure.
And some of these other states that actually had, when USAC was sanctioning the things, we had regional areas, and then we had national events too. But we just had a lot of car owners at the time were very passionate car owners and able to do what they wanted to do. Somewhere along the line, let's face it, some of these guys got older, and I don't know that they got burnt out, but different things happened, through the course of the years, and
Sure.
your drivers grew up and started having families of their own, and had
It's overrated.
other things to do on the weekends than go racing. They had kids to go support with their school activities and their sports and stuff like that.
Right.
Agreed.
We were just lucky, Todd. I mean, the Hiltons and the Wrightses and the Trigueros and all of the great owners in Idaho. I mean, Pat Russell, for God's sakes, bless his heart, is still going at it. But he's one of the few. I mean, Shannon Muir and Scotty Backman were
Sure.
huge supporters of what we did.
Yeah, and they run from Colorado all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, we just had a lot of people coming from a lot of different directions. I mean, I've looked at some of the photos that I have from events that we did up in the corner of the world in Monroe, Washington, and it's amazing when I look at the cars that were actually there in support of the deal and how far they came to do that.
Oh, Lord, yeah. And you've been blessed in that corner of the world many times in that deal. The super modifieds, and of course the International Drivers Challenge before that.
Oh yeah, sure.
You
The old
go
IDC.
back and go back to the people that came from the Midwest and run. We've been blessed with great racing up in the Northwest. Of course, I lived in Seattle for 7 years, so going to those tracks and stuff, I got to see a lot of that stuff too as well. So I'm real excited about what's going on with that. And let's talk about the NSRA for a second. Now that they've gone sprint cars, I know that the board controls them now, and they do a really good job. Other than one little quarter-mile track, I believe they own every track record in the Pacific Northwest at the tracks that they've run at, right? One little quarter-mile track, some cat named Wharf or some shit just went in the tens at Meridian last year.
I think he's got a dad that I knew for a long time.
And a grandpa named Frenchie, and Lemanez or something like that's his name. Moyne's one of the good old dudes. We put him in the Hall of Fame a few years back, along with Pat Russell, by the way. Pat Russell is in our Hall of Fame down here, which is one of the things that I still get to do, thank God, is do the Hall of Fame. But I tell you what, the NSRA sprint car guys do a great job. They ran last night at Roseburg. Matt Hine was the winner. They had a good field. They had 18 cars.
18, yep.
Yeah, so you left them in a good place. And, my friend, I got to tell you that group's doing fine. They do have a race in Montana this year. It's going to be kind of fun for them. Get all the cars that they can up there. Of course, we do have the Diamond Cup coming up. Looking this weekend, we do have a barbecue coming. What's the story for the reunion? Do you have a barbecue Friday night? Tell me what's up.
Well, I believe that that there's something going on Friday night at the track. I'm not 100% sure, just exactly what it is. The track is dealing with a weekly schedule, and every one of their events leading up to this point are they're all special events, and so the planning is we're doing it as we can and whatnot. So But Dan Breach,
Sure.
has just been a peach to deal with. And
Isn't he
of course,
cool?
I've known Dan for a long time, and
He's one of my best friends. I'm with you.
yeah, he's, it's just been great dealing with Dan, and I mean, they're just so busy, but we're putting this thing together as we can going along, and of course they usually, the week leading into their weekend event, that's what they're paying attention to, and so I think this next week, starting tomorrow, is going to be when we're going to be able to come out with schedules and timings and and all that good
Sure.
stuff for the people. And I got to thank the people for being patient with us on the website. I get
Sure.
a lot of people that are asking questions, and I just, at this point, I just haven't had a ton of answers, but I know that this week
Right.
it'll all come out and everything's going to be good.
Yeah, just get here and we'll make it work. I mean, local guys, for the folks that are listening local and paying attention to us. I know Rick will be there, Beanstra. I know Kenny will be there. David's busy this weekend, with what he's got going on back east, his commitments. Let's see who else. The Elliott family will be there.
So we'll be there. Yeah.
I know that the Naylor family, that Adam, of course, is part of. They'll be there.
Yeah, in
with you,
fact,
Brent.
I've had some conversation with Chrissy, and her and Otis and Isaac will be there, so I'm excited
Good.
to see them. Haven't seen them for a long time.
I'm sure Adam will pull out, Squidly, the rear engine car. I'm sure he'll pull it
I
out.
really, and I made this comment on the website, but I really hope that they do, because I mean, I absolutely love that race car.
Oh yeah, yeah. Wally
I
Pete
mean,
built
it
some
is
beautiful
just
race
like-
cars.
It's just cool,
Yeah.
and I'm hoping that they'll let me crawl inside of the thing and somebody can take a picture of me sitting in it.
There's a picture on your Facebook group page of my fat butt sitting there pedaling T-shirts or something, and we stuck that in.
You would
the
just
car
get your
show.
backside though, Todd. It's just your backside.
That's my best side.
The
bro.
best side,
I mean,
right?
have you seen my front? That's why
Is
I do
that the
back.
best side?
Now I'm looking for it.
Kurt,
Yeah, keep looking. It's not there. But
we're looking at the front right now. You got
hey,
the best.
hey, I'm gonna gut you like a trout now. I'm gonna gut Brent. I'm gonna gut Donovan. I was lucky enough to sit in the car that night and move it around. We also, that was neat. We brought that car on purpose to the car show for that reason. And absolutely, it's a wonderful car. My brother-in-law Van Graves raced against that car hard, night after night. Between those two, for a few years there, that was going to be the winner. One of them two, whoever broke traffic first. And Tom was a wonderful person. The last time I saw Tom alive, I'll tell the story. He was water skiing. And I was laying on a dock with a girlfriend doing something probably I shouldn't have been, with some stuff that you inhale. What? And I just being honest, this is Honesty Todd talking. And there's a boat coming, and of course you're going to get the wake and all that. I'm like, God damn it, there's a boat coming, and this guy skis right up and he lets go of the rope and slides right up to the end of the dock and sits down. It's Tom Naylor. How could I get mad? I mean, he grew up a block from me. He was like 10 years older than me, but he, LeBron kid, stick him in a garbage can, roll him down the
There you
street,
go.
that kind of thing, And Tom Naylor was a wonderful person, very alive, and his brother Bob was the same way, very alive, very into life. And tragedy, they're not here, so we are celebrating their memorial along with their father. Glenn passed of old age.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we had him as long as we could possibly get him.
Yes.
And the Naylor Memorial will be contested this weekend, along with the Crow Memorial, the Miller Memorial. What else we got going this weekend, Brent?
We've got the D40 and Don Van Squik Memorial.
Sure, yeah,
for our-
absolutely.
For our Kerr Super Stocks. The Eldon Cahill Memorial.
Yeah.
Of course, we've had Eldon around the track as our.
Yeah, Memorial Day
truck
weekend's
driver.
huge. Are
Yeah,
you going to
it's
hang out
huge.
until? Are you going to hang out until Monday, Kurt?
I can't. No, I've got it's a long weekend, and
You got a lot of resting to do up at Cushman, right?
yeah, I've got family obligations that I probably should.
Oh, give him my number. I'll call him. And we'll get you out of there.
care
Because I'll be here Monday night. I'm just kidding.
You know what? As soon as I can find that number, I'll send it over to you. How's that?
There you go.
Well, we definitely sure appreciate you. I've kept you a long time on your phone tonight. And my friend, thank you for coming to Turn5.Live tonight. And this podcast, of course, we're going to get it out to everybody so they can see it. We had some technical difficulties tonight, which is kind of rare. Donovan's pretty good at this stuff. It's really the storm that's kept us. Well, I'm not. Don't listen to me, but you're really good at this stuff, Donovan.
Yeah.
So we'll get that fixed. The golden voice of Meridian Speedway, Brent and Donovan, I thank you very much for being our guest here at
yeah.
Turn5.
You know what? Absolutely, you guys. I mean, you know what? As Friday grows nearer, I just get more and more excited. I mean, I'm really excited. There's just a lot of people are going to be there that I haven't seen in a long time, and I think it's just going to be a ball. And that's the whole thing that Adam and Dan and I have talked about from the very beginning on this thing, is that if nothing else happens, for God's sakes, we just want everybody that shows up to just have a good time.
Right.
That's the whole
Absolutely.
thing. We just want everybody to have a good time.
Absolutely, and don't forget, I know that it's not important how many cars show up, of course, for the actual super modified race, but they should be a decent field of cars. We're going to have a lot of fun. I'm sure that they'll bring the 91 out. Don Penix is bringing his car with Kyle Vanderpool driving it, and Burgess is working his tail off to get up here. So we're going to have some good cars. We'll have some fun, burning some circles down.
Yeah,
I know.
we're gonna have T-shirts. We're gonna have posters. I've talked to
T-shirts.
Dan, and
I
I
saw
want
the
to set up
T-shirt.
a
have
autograph
not seen the
table
T-shirt.
somewhere for the kids to be able to get their posters and get them signed by some of these guys, and
Right.
so it should be a good time. I think it will.
Because my fat butt's got to work next weekend in Spokane, I'm going to have somebody hold me a T-shirt because I really liked it. I love the posters that you sent to the racetracks and so forth. So the folks out there watching on Turn5.Live, take part next week. Come by and say hello to Curt Kern and thank him for all the work that he's done. The man's been selfless in imparting knowledge out to myself, to Breach, to Randy Kerr, to Steve York, to Adam Nelson, to all the promoters of the Northwest as well. People that you've heard of before. Kurt's an integral part of our education process and what's make us better so we can enjoy our motorsports here in the area. So come by and say hello to Curt, say hello to Billy Birdsell, say hello to those guys. Curt, my friend, thank you very much for joining us on Turn5.Live. We're going to take our couple minute break here, and we're going to come back and we're going to recap what happened in Salt Lake City with the Royal Purple Modified Series. Those guys.
Right.
They were
Everybody
racing.
heard of them before?
Yeah.
We're
Once
going
or
to talk
twice.
about them. Curt, thank you very much. And let's everybody
Thanks,
give
guys.
Curt the
Thank you,
clap.
Curt.
Give Curt the
There you go.
clap.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Yep. Appreciate it.
You got
See
the
some
clap
of you
now.
next weekend.
All
Yep,
right,
we'll
we'll
see
see
you
you, Curt.
Friday.
Bye-bye.
All right.
We're going to take our
Bye-bye.
break now. We'll see you right back on Turn5.Live. bring us back.
All right, guys, we're back for our maybe final segment. We're having too much fun tonight.
Right?
I don't know. I got beer now.
We
Right, hey.
beer.
Segment 3.
A huge interview with Curt Kern, and I'm looking forward to Friday night.
Isn't that cool?
When they're,
Oh my
you know,
God.
I mean, Saturday's going to be cool. Don't get me wrong, but Dan and I were talking. Friday's the day when all these guys are mingling and we're just hanging out. That's the
I
highlight.
mean, you
of
aren't
my
going
week.
to Spokane with me for the giant Larry H. Miller tent sale and missing it?
I was thinking about it, but I have 2 prior commitments this weekend on Saturday and Monday. But speaking of commitments,
Yep.
had some Royal Purple Modifieds going round and round this weekend.
Hey, them guys.
Were you there?
I was there. I saw I saw every lap.
Saw 'em
I
all?
didn't even miss one. I didn't even go to the bathroom during the race or anything.
Did?
The Royal Purple
probably
Modified
good.
Series. I own that.
I hear it's a
You
really great
sponsor that.
show.
It-
I think
I
they have
heard
a
that.
fantastic presenting sponsor.
They have a great presenting sponsor, the Lion Tamer Beard Care folks. Give them the clap. The Lion Tamer.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah, the Lion Tamer people. That's why you have the beard care. You gotta have the clap.
Gotta cover the
Let's
scars.
talk about the clap. All right, Royal Purple Modified Series. Rocky Mountain Raceway is our final time in the history of that facility. I still am blown away. We talked about it last week. The fact that Salt Lake City is not going to actually have
gone.
an asphalt circle track blows me away because, of course, that's my second home down in Utah
Right.
with my family and so forth. Had a great race. We showed up with 18 cars strong. We lost Patrick Gold early in practice blew his motor. Patrick's one of our guys that wants to run with us all the time, and Patrick's good people. And he lost a motor in practice, hurt that. We also had our practice hampered because the class before us blew a motor in a junior Stinger, and they went all the way around the racetrack.
Yeah, that's what you do, right?
Well, I think when the black flag means you just go to the pits all around the racetrack a couple of times first.
Of course.
But we
Well,
lost
that's
that.
for me.
The track crew down there at Salt Lake at Rocky Mountain Raceways did a fantastic job getting the track prepared for us, and it was safe. They have a great safe racetrack. So it did take a little time, cut into our
Beautiful
practice a
racetrack.
bit. Qualifying was amazing. We draw for qualifying order, and you have to hit your qualifying order. One of the things that happened during qualifying blew me away. Young man, you may have heard of him. His name's Trevor Christiani. Have you heard of him?
I think
before?
I've seen him once or
Yeah,
twice.
he's a good-looking
I've
young
heard
man.
that.
I guess he's getting married to some, Aubrey Wortman. She's a neat little gal.
Yep.
And he's getting married to her. Anyway, they were third to qualify. And that car was nowhere near ready. They had a brand new facility, brand new race car that Danny Christiani, Don Newman, and the group there at
Beautiful race car.
yeah. A beautiful race car. They'd had some brake issues, and they'd fought the new car blues for the first 2 practice sessions. And really, he hadn't even pushed the car yet. But they pushed that car down and rolled it up there and fired it on the way to the line to qualify. And I waved him right through because he was next in line. It was just boom, boom, boom. If he'd have been 30 seconds later, he'd only got 1 lap. Trevor was amazing. He went down there and broke the track record on his first and his second lap. And he drove the car so damn hard. And I told him, I said, did you have a 10th left in turn 1? He goes, oh, I had 2 tenths left. I had 1 in each corner. He goes, that car, I wasn't even there yet. And I'm like, oh, my Lord. The kid's got a ton of talent, and he's a wonderful kid. And his family and his people are great around him. He just drives. He drives the crap out of his race cars. I can say shit on here. He drives the shit out of his race cars. And he went, I watched that lap, and I went, wow. And, our second place qualifier was Mr. Eric Reed, one of our Redbone guys. I'm wearing Redbone tonight. Out of respect. And he had a hell of a lap. It was 2 tenths slower. He had a hell of a lap.
Wow.
And so Trevor broke the track record in qualifying. Heat races were great. We had a side-by-side battle. Mr. Zachary Webster, one of our longtime stalwarts in our series, many time winner. He passed his brother Jeff during the heat race and then battled his good buddy Neil Latham to the line. And they were side-by-side. It must have been less than 100.
Put on a show.
It was a great show. Zachary drives down there. He drives great down there. He's very set up there. Stan, Christy, the whole family does a great job. Neil won a heat race, right? Just barely. And the other heat race was won by Eric Reed. And we went into our main event, 75 laps, clean and green. Unfortunately, it didn't go clean and green. We had a small spin early, and then we had our own restart. We had 2 cars just barely get together. One of the guys, of course, overcorrected. And we ended up losing the cars of Al Jones and Aubrey Wortman in one of the most severe wrecks we've ever had in our series. Guy lost control, came back up the track. Aubrey and Al had nowhere to go. No fault of their own, but the 44 car, the Ice Cream Boys at Redbone Racing, Al Jones completely lost his car. hard hit. I'm thankful that he didn't hit square on the driver's compartment, or we'd be visiting him up there trying to get him healthy.
Right.
But Al got out of the car and walked away. I know he's sore today, and Al's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. And hated seeing that. Aubrey's car got tore up real good on the left front as well. And those are two great cars and great people, great families of our series. So it breaks your heart to have that happen.
Have that go.
The little itty bitty thumbnail picture right there for everyone to look at.
Yeah, if you can see it, that's right after it happened. That was probably 25 feet in front of my fat butt, and I was running for cover. The 44 car there, Aubrey was on the outside when the wreck started, and actually kind of pile drove him in because she had, their brakes were locked up, nothing they could do. But Al hit driver's side, and I thought, that's the most vulnerable you are is from the left rear.
Yes.
And thank God he kind of hit left front before he hit left rear. But the boys at Thompson Motorsports going to get that car and see if they can get it fixed up. Thank God for the safety equipment. Steve Teets and STR building a safe race car. And Al for putting all the safety equipment, taking it serious, and our tech guys and everybody that does that. Because Al getting out of that car, I gave him a big hug right when he got out, and I was glad to see that because he's one of the great guys that races with us. And, we went back green after that, had some small spins. Eric Reed checked out, was up in front. He had about an 8-car length lead. Midway, we went 50 laps of green. As Eric was trying to figure out how to go around a lapped car there towards the end, he'd been dialing more and more left brake in the car, is what he told me after the races.
Right.
He got on the brakes a little bit hard because of the lapped car, looped it with 5 to go. And he had the race won. Second place, Trevor Christiani was hunting him down. But I like Trevor says in his Winter Circle interview, there wasn't a lot he was going to be able to do with Eric. And Eric, spun out. We had to go yellow, and of course we went back green. Eric came back up and battled for third place with Jonathan Gomez there at the end. But Trevor cruised to the win in a brand new car. And you know what? You and I talked about this earlier. It's rare to see Trevor this animated and fired up at the racetrack about winning a race. But I believe we have the audio, do we not, Donovan?
I hope to God this is working.
Are you ready to flip to it?
So we're going to flip over.
Here's our Winter Circle interview filmed through my iPhone 10 with Trevor Christiani. Hopefully you can see that.
All right, let's try this. Here we go. Here's a happy Trevor.
Here's happy.
You were on battle for the lead most of the race, but how great is it to take this win?
I've been wanting to win here since 2013. We've always been either second or fourth. So,
Give it up for him, Trevor Christiani, driving the lane car, taking the win tonight.
Awesome, great interview at RMR. You can see the weather was perfect down there for us. And a lot of fun down there. We had 18 solid cars, good car count.
That's awesome.
Yeah, for the last race down there. Great group of guys. Couple shout outs there. I got to go with my unsung heroes right now. The week before, we've never had a back-to-back before, Brent. We never have had one race one weekend and then went right into the next one.
It's been, what, 5 years, 6 years you've been doing this? And it's always been a weekend off at least.
Something in the middle.
Sometimes
We had a back-to-back due to some circumstances of when we could get into RMR and what Adam wanted us to do at Meridian Speedway. So, Redbone. I'm wearing the shirt tonight, and don't get mad at me because this is our unsung heroes for this week. Team Redbone had 2 cars to fix. The 44 car of Al Jones, which ended up getting messed up at RMR, also was tore up really bad at Meridian Speedway.
Last Saturday,
They fixed that car. They weren't going to bring it. They decided to fix it and figure it out. The 66 car was involved in the last lap incident when Eric was pushing the car real hard trying to get by Shelby Strobel there at the end. And they had to repair both those cars, and they both came out very competitive. And those guys don't complain. So I want to give a shout out to my friends Cody and Travis and the group down there at Redbone, the guys that work their tails off at night, and they're my unsung heroes for the Royal Purple Modified, at least for last weekend. No honorable mention, the Latham family, fighting distributor issues. Longman family, they watered up a car and had to go to California to pick up another. All the guys who came out and run with us, local guys from Salt Lake, they're all a great bunch of guys. I enjoy them very much. Jeff Webster, by the way, I got to talk about him for a second. He led a good chunk of that race with a brand new race car, a carbon copy of what Zachary Webster has. And he led a good chunk of that race going there for 30 laps or so. Ended up breaking a drive plate and finishing in the back. No, actually he didn't come back out after he broke a drive plate. But great group. The point standings are definitely going to get shuffled.
Right.
And Jonathan Gomez with a great